Good call. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So happy to be with you. Welcome to Learning and Mending. Very happy to be rejoining you and filling in for my friend and colleague Jen Curtis. We're here doing our special Tuesday ritual of the Learning and Mending event, public program here with you that's been going for a couple of years now, impressively. So I'm going to pass it to my pal Cindy to share an embroidery, a special embroidery of the week.
Hi everyone, I'm Cindy, and today's featured embroidery is by Naveen, and it's a willow, this beautiful willow that she embroidered, and she used fabric, so she kind of did embroidery and fabric work, and it's really beautiful, just the outline, the details, it's very pretty. So we're excited to see what you guys come up with when you return your embroidery kit. If you haven't got one, if you want one, just send us an email at info@metabolicstudio.org and we'll get it in the mail for you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Emily.
Appreciate it. I was gonna out Cindy with an embroidery that she had done, but we'll save it for another day. And I just wanted to give a special shout out to Cindy because she's working behind the scenes of this event every week and behind the scenes at the studio every day, helping us get things done and supporting us on all levels. So I just wanted to give a special shout out and uplift to my friend Cindy there. Thank
you.
Yeah. So we're going to do popcorn introductions. You can say your name and your pronoun, your location, if you feel comfortable sharing, and what you might be working on this evening. So to recap, I'm Emily, and I'm here in Echo Park, Los Angeles. She, her pronouns. I have my interspecies pals with me, my dogs Bucky and Lulu, who are here every week as well. And let me go ahead and pass it to Walker.
Sorry, lots of dogs barking in the background. I'm Walker. I'm here in Baja, California. I use she, they pronouns. And I'm still working on this kind of micro party.
Nice.
What's going on there, but I'm gonna pass it to Millie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Millie. My pronouns are she, we, and I am cleansing, I harvested this like 3 months ago, but now I'm cleaning the seed of a very special plant, medicinal, arnica, which is very rare here in Los Angeles. You really can't find it, but I really want to start growing it from seed. So that's what I'll be doing and also listening and hosting tonight. I would like to pass it to Adam. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you very much. My name is Adam. I use he, him pronouns. I'm based here in Los Feliz, California, in Los Angeles. And tonight I've been working on editing a novella that I've been working on for some time about water rights and desert agriculture. I would like to popcorn it over to is it Kavi?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adam. Kavi Lal calling in from Sacramento. Use he, him pronouns. And tonight, I'm looking forward to following along with the reading, and I'll be sharing links in the chat bar to some great nonprofits, as well as some links to some videos as well. I'll pass the mic over to Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I use she, her, or they, we pronouns. I'm here with a dog named Murray, who is currently running around. And I've been working on some writing today, and I was just making this bookmark, writing my favorite quote on it. So this is my first time here, and I'm excited to engage. And I'll pass it to Andrea.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea calling in from Los Angeles, California. She, her pronouns, and I'm working on the bison. So getting more of the detail in there so that I can get a corn.
Will you hold it up a little bit longer so we can see? Oh, wow, it's beautiful. Look at that coat.
Yeah,
Wow.
I tried to make it look kind of like fluffy.
I love it.
Thank you. I will popcorn it too. Let's see. Lauren.
Hi, Drea. I'm
Hi.
Lauren. I use she, they pronouns. I'm calling in from Tongva Chumash territory, known as Topanga Canyon. I'm working on a mycorrhizal network. And very glad to be here tonight. And I would like to popcorn it to Marta.
I guess that's me, huh? Hi, I don't see myself here, but I'm here. I'm Marta. My pronouns are they, her. I'm here with my sweet little girl dogs, Lila and Gooby. I don't know if you can see Gooby here or not. My brain is just really trying to catch up with everything everybody's saying here because I just got home from work, so I'm in the non-braining time of my day. So sorry about me, but I'm excited to come back into the world through the venues that you all are offering. Thanks. Oh gosh, okay, I have to popcorn it. Oh, what did I just see? Laura?
Hello all, Laura, she, her pronouns, coming in from Kumeyaay territory. And I am excited to start working on the one that I set down last season, but I don't have it with me. So I'm just going to be listening and enjoying seeing your beautiful faces again. Happy to be here. And I came on late, but Emily, did you go already? Yeah, you can pass it to someone, then you know who hasn't gone.
Yes, no problem.
Please.
Yes, no problem. Can I pass it to Aaron? Aaron Tupac.
Hi, Aaron Tupac here on Tongva land in Pasadena at Arlington Gardens, actually. And yeah, I joined for the first, and this is my second time through. I'm really excited to hear, to listen in, to read with you all. Thanks for having me. And I'll popcorn over, actually, because I joined late, I don't know who all went, so I'm gonna popcorn it back.
No problem.
To you.
No problem. How about you, Juanita? Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Juanita, and I just got back from jury duty, so I'm a little flustered, had to feed the cats and the guinea pig, but I'm excited to be here. I was trying to join last week and was confused about how to sign in. Yeah, what are we sharing? Yeah, I'm Juanita. I live in Glendora, which is Tongva land too, right? Gabrielino Tongva. I've never done this type of this art or craft, so I'm kind of excited to just dive in and see what I come up with. And learning this really, it sounds like the reading is really interesting, and yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Let's see, who else can we invite to introduce themselves? Perhaps Alexandra, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Alexandra or Alex. I'm calling from Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm also part of Lauren's class Post-Human Infrastructure. And today I'm focusing on drawing roots. And I just got watercolors for the first time, so I can believe I've never used watercolors before, so I'm very happy. I'll popcorn it to, sorry, maybe Matt. I don't know if he went.
Hi, I'm Matt, he, him. I'm also calling from Tongland, right next to the LA River on the moon site. What I've been working on is this book, Radical Friends. Yeah, I'll popcorn it to I'm not sure, maybe is Trish there? Maybe not.
Yes, it's Trish, and I am here, and here is in Palo Alto, which is Moikwa Ohlone land acknowledgement for me. I use she, her, we. I'm working on my buffalo, and I'll pass it to Jasmine.
Hello, this is Jasmine. I use she, her pronouns, and I just got home from a long tomato harvest, so I am resting my body right now. Also, I'm calling from Arcata, which is Wiyot territory, and I had the delight of running into our learning and mending friend Izzy in town on Friday. Very excited to see each other in person. I will pass it to James.
Hi, everyone. James here, he, they pronouns, calling from Los Angeles, Tongvaland as well. And yeah, I will be reading and processing some worm castings while going through tonight's reading with everybody. Happy to be here. I will pass it to, I also joined later, so I don't know who's gone. Alex, have you gone? Alex Tanasi.
Hi, thanks, James. I'm Alex, and I'm calling in here from Mar Vista, and I will be doing some embroidery with you guys, and really looking forward to the reading. It's going to be lots of fun. And I will pass it to Kaveh. Have you gone, Kaveh?
Yeah, I've gone.
Okay, very good. Can I pass it to Walker?
I've gone already.
Okay.
I think I can take it back unless there's anyone who's dying to introduce themselves and hasn't got a chance. Reveal yourselves and unmute now. I think that we can go ahead and move forward with our session. At this point, I'm trying to remember, Lauren, if I pass it to you for our grounding, or do I read my introduction?
First, you read the introduction, so everybody has an idea of us figuring out what post-human infrastructure is.
Wonderful.
And then we'll move to the poetry.
Okay, wonderful. So let me go ahead with that. Thanks again, everyone, so much for being here. It's a real pleasure. I really missed you all last week while I was out sick, and it's just really nice to rejoin and see human faces in real time. Okay, so welcome to our 9th edition of Learning and Mending Post-Human Infrastructure. This series will explore the commons of soil, the air we breathe, water, sound, and the potency of seed and mycelium networks. It involves letting go of the outdated ideas that do not support and serve the life web. As a studio practice, we aim to facilitate this rebound and regeneration. We seek to engender self-propagating and self-generating feedback loops that feed the life web in places that have been ground down to an inert state. Artists need to create on the same scale that society has the capacity to destroy. Post-human is a concept that critiques anthropocentrism and the philosophical branch of humanism, a dominant ethos that has shaped social relations and the way humans relate to the non-human world for centuries. There is a rich discourse on post-human and post-humanism. Therefore, there are many ways one might define these concepts. Posthumanism pushes back against the centering of the human and moves toward a thinking that eradicates hierarchy of being and challenges the life, non-life binary. Posthumanism is an ontological pursuit of what it means to be human, what it means to be non-human, and where these categories rupture and collide. This is a 7-week series and will be facilitated by Millie Mason Moore, Metabolic Studio Farm Lab Coordinator. We are inspired generalists rather than experts and hope to facilitate an open community dialogue. This series will run each Tuesday, the exception of skipping November 8th, and conclude November 14th. If you would like to receive an embroidery kit from us, please send your name and mailing address to info@metabolicstudio.org. Tonight, we will share our screen displaying the week's reading. Feel free to jump in and read aloud from the text as you feel inspired, as we welcome one and all to both listen and give voice to the unique text we share each week.
Thank you, Emily. And now, in order to approach our text tonight, I offer a poem from Deborah A. Miranda, who is an Ohlone Costanoan Esalen Chumash Native American. This poem is called Indian Cartography. My father opens a map of California, traces mountain ranges, rivers, county borders like family bloodlines. Tuolumne, Salinas, Los Angeles, Paso Robles, Ventura, Santa Barbara, Satacoy, Tehachapi, places he was happy or where tragedy greeted him like an old, unpleasant relative. A small blue spot marks Lake Cachuma, created when they dammed the Santa Ynez, flooded a valley, and divided my father's boyhood. Days he learned to swim the hard way, and days he walked across the silver scales, swollen bellies of salmon coming back to a river that wasn't there. The government paid those Indians to move away, he says. I don't know where they went. In my father's dreams, after the solace of a six-pack, he follows a longing, a deepness. When he comes to the valley, drowned by a displaced river, he swims out, floats on his face with eyes open, looks down into lands not drawn on any map. Maybe he sees shadows of a people who are fluid, fluent in dark water, bodies long and glinting with sharp-edged jewelry and mouths still opening, closing on the stories of our home.
Thank you for sharing that, Lauren. That was beautiful. I can imagine myself looking at the California map and really saying thank you. Great evening, everyone. Again, I'm Millie. I don't believe I mentioned last week that this series of post-human infrastructure reading selections were collectively chosen by our team at FarmLab. Last week, we learned about the different sound frequencies and how they affect us and other living systems. In the upcoming weeks, we will learn about how Indigenous people harvest clay, seed banking, and much more. So definitely stay tuned for our following announcements. Again, just please note, we are inspired and passionate generalists rather than experts on the following subjects. This week, chapter Beavers. The original Water Engineers is taken from Eric Geiss's Water Always Wins, Thriving in an Age of Droughts and Deluge. Here's the book, for those of you that would like to see the cover. It reintroduces us to a forgotten eco-engineers, those underrated rodents, castor fiber, also known as beavers. These enchanting creatures have so many attributes that it behooves us to study and learn from them. Note that we've lost by eliminating them and strive to reintroduce them and live alongside them. The water mantra, thanks to Brad Lancaster, slow it down, spread it out, and infiltrate, describes the exact actions of beavers since millennia before humankind arrived. Beavers are the avatars of the slow water movement, and it's time they return to their natural habitats. I'd love to thank Lee Adams for her reading selection tonight. Lee is unable to join us this evening. However, she sends all her love to us. Now, here are some guiding questions for our casual dialogue after we conclude our reading. Beavers shape their landscape to fit their need for safety, food availability, habitat, etc. Yet their work impacts positively in their surroundings by recentering the local ecology around a water retention landscape. Can you think of similar examples within human habitat and infrastructure? Should you not feel comfortable having a conversation when the time comes, just feel free to use the chat bar to add your questions, thoughts, resources. We'll even add our dreams, observations, and other ideas. So use the chat freely. Also note, anything added to the chat bar, it will be included on our Discord, Water Community Power. One of my colleagues will now be adding the Discord link to our chat bar. The Discord has been established to continue these dialogues and to open source our collective knowledge. And now, without further ado, Emily, will you be so kind to share your screen? Thank you.
Guerrilla gardening is a rebellious act of secretly sowing plants on blighted land to restore ecological function and beauty. In Southwest England, someone has taken this concept to the next level: guerrilla beavering. Around 2008, Eurasian beavers, castor fiber, popped up on the River Otter in East Devon. Aside from beavers not being the river's eponymous semi-aquatic mammal, who also lives on the River Otter, their presence surprised locals because the rodents had been absent from the British Isles for at least 4 centuries, hunted into local extinction by desire for their soft fur, meat, and pungent glands used for medicine and perfume. Just outside of Cookworthy, a small rural town, We pull into the parking lot of the dark, rambling building that serves as the office for Devon Wildlife Trust. Wetland ecologist Mark Elliott greets us with a slightly nervous elbow tap as COVID-19 has just been discovered in England. Over the last several years, Elliott and other wildlife ecologists in the United Kingdom have imported beavers from mainland Europe to populate licensed studies. But those beavers were deployed in fenced-in areas. The one in River Otter are living wild. Elliott, who is running one of the control studies as project manager of the Devon Wildlife Trust beaver work, doesn't believe the otter beavers are escapees. I think people are deliberately releasing beavers, he tells me. But why yield a furry orange-toothed rodent as your stream repair tool of choice, as people are now doing in both the United Kingdoms and the United States? Beavers dig canals and build dams to create pools of deeper water so they can peruse a wider area for food and building material with safety from land predators. Their engineering works rehabilitate stream health and function by creating areas of slow water. In the United Kingdom, people are planting beavers to help protect towns against a rise in flooding. In the Western United States, people are using North American beavers, Castor canadensis, to help protect against drought and even wildfire. Beavers mean higher water tables and water on the landscape throughout the dry and wet seasons, says my friend and Canadian journalist Frances Backhouse, author of a compelling 2015 book, Once There Were Hats, In Search of a Mighty Beaver.
Other animals also played important roles in shaping the landscape for water when there were more of them and fewer of us. Bison dug or expanded wallows to mud their skin for protection from flies. The pocks they left behind acted as groundwater recharge ponds across the landscape. Prairie dog burrows provided pathways for water to move underground where the landscape was too hard to absorb rainfall efficiently. On the extremely flat surface of southern Florida, where alligators have made a remarkable comeback from near extinction, the reptile's nests elevate spots by a few feet, ultimately creating small hills called hummocks on which less water-tolerant plants can live. But along with humans, beavers are the most significant water engineers on the planet. Backhouse draws another, less flattering parallel between humans and beavers. We're both control freaks. Yet we have very different ideas of the best way to shape water. That goes some way toward explaining why human dams sicken waterways and beaver dams restore them to health. The shortest answer is that other species evolved with beavers' interventions. Our massive engineering came about suddenly on the scale of evolutionary time. Also, beaver dams are smaller and somewhat porous. Water does move through them, just at a slower rate than it would otherwise. And although water moves through human dams too, a lot of it is released on a different schedule and velocity than nature prefers. While beaver dams might seem too small to make a difference, as with other slow water approaches, multiple small interventions across a landscape add up to a big impact. Beaver enthusiasts, hydrologists, biologists, and ecologists who call each other beaver believers are doing some detective work to measure the ecosystem benefits and water services beavers provide and to determine good places to release them.
Beaver down. To understand how beavers' handiwork can have such powerful effects, it helps to think about what these landscapes looked like before people killed most of them. When beavers and water had an intricate, important relationship. Prior to Europeans' arrival in North America, An estimated 60 million to 400 million beavers lived on the continent, occupying nearly every headwater stream. As nature's original slow water engineers, beavers shaped North America with their dams, creating a much wetter continent than the one we know today. Spreading and slowing water wherever they went, their ponds covered more than 300,000 square miles, turning 1/10 of the continent into rich, ecologically diverse wetlands that supported numerous other species. Textbook behavior of ecological engineers. The longest documented beaver dam found via satellite in northern Alberta measures 2,790 feet, twice the length of Hoover Dam. Many indigenous peoples across North America hunted beavers too, but they typically regulated their harvests with beliefs of interdependence among species and recognition of the spirit in non-human beings. Together, these values constrain their take. According to the one, they were hats. According to once, they were hats. Some groups even viewed beaver as kin or part of their clan. Then 500 years ago, the nature of this relationship changed dramatically as foreign economic incentives and technology rewrote the rules of engagement. After European fur traders arrived, beavers' numbered plunged to less than 1% of their historical population by 1900. This was no accident. In the mid-1800s, Hudson Bay Company ordered its trappers to hunt out all beavers in the Northwest, creating a fur desert that would elbow out competing companies. Beaver numbers across North America dropped to as few as 100,000. According to Ben Goldfarb, author of the charming book Eager, The Surprising Secret Life of Beavers and Why They Matter, 2019. The animal's dissemination fundamentally altered the plumbing of much of North America. With beavers and their dams, water moved to the ocean more quickly, scoring stream beds, deepening their channels, and reducing slow phases and spaces where surface water could recharge aquifers. Groundwater levels fell. The North American landscape became a drier, less ecologically diverse place.
Across the Big Pond in the United Kingdom, people had lived alongside giant beavers since the Stone Age. Later, humans shared space with the modern Eurasian beaver. Both humans and beavers retreated to the south with the advent of various ice ages, and both returned after the late glacial maximum, about 9,500 BCE. As the climate warmed, what was once tundra became mixed forest and later woodland, a partially open blend of trees and shrubs. During this period, wetland plants and animals adapted to rely on the habitat beavers created. Elliot tells me on my visit to Devon, consider willows, he says, with coppice resprout in response to beavers chewing them. You get a change in the canopy structure because the beavers are cutting down the bigger trees, and you're getting this lovely fresh regrowth of younger stuff. As the beavers are moving around, the vegetation is changing in response to what they're doing. But people were also interested in woody plants and began clearing forests to farm as far back as the Neolithic period, about 4,300 BCE. Fast forward to the start of the Industrial Age, when logging became rampant to build ships and fuel steam engines. Around the same time, Britons hunted the last of the native beavers. The lowlands were already prone to flooding during the big winter storms. Removing trees and beavers exacerbated the problem, and in recent years, climate change and development have made it worse still. UK Meteorological Office records stretching back to 1862 show that 6 of the 10 wettest years have occurred since 1998. In just a few years, the UK has seen damaging floods in Cumbria, Yorkshire's Kildare Valley, South Wales, and Shropshire. Even under a low-impact climate change scenario, flooding is predicted to increase in 85% of UK cities with a river, including London. Under a high impact scenario, some cities and towns could see the quantity of water per flood double. After beavers were exterminated, or nearly so, in the United Kingdom and North America, humans exacerbated damage to streams and rivers, as in Seattle, by speeding water off the land even faster. They straightened waterways, meanders, and even moved them by digging new channels to better conform with property lines. Add to this the hard grazing by cows and sheep that rips out grass from the roots, plus the animal's tendency to stand next to waterways for hours, tamping down the soil, and you end up with thoroughly ill streams. The absence of beavers from the landscape over several generations of humans means that people today are accustomed to a landscape devoid of beavers, and in fact, larger animals generally. It's the shifting baselines phenomena again. The idea of coexisting with other animals, relinquishing space to them, weighing their needs as equal to our own is largely anathema to the dominant culture in which human supremacy goes largely unquestioned. We also seem to be uncomfortable with change. Beaver's handiwork restores a more natural landscape, but many people think their tonic looks messy. Trees felled across creeds, piles of sticks forming dams that look a lot like slash piles from clear-cut logging. But the neat straight channels we've built are ailing systems. Beaver-built roughness, as ecologists call it, makes possible slow water and all its benefits. The logs and detritus that and natural systems design placed carefully across Thornton Creek in Seattle are an imitation of beaver's work, a mimicry that Miwok people in California made earlier to slow water on steep slopes, infiltrated underground, and we create microhabitats.
The same pursuit of slow water that inspired the Thornton Creek restoration crew is also luring beaver believers across the US West. They are hoping to reap these benefits for local water storage, a goal more important than ever as snowpack and glaciers are, for the most part, not capturing the quantity of winter water that they did in years past. Beaver dams slow water and sediment drops out of the flow and begins to raise the stream bottom. Eventually, water can access the floodplain again and disperse across the landscape, slowing it further, reducing scoring, erosion, and flash floods. These microbes have time to break down pollution, and water can infiltrate underground for storage. In the United Kingdom, people are looking to beavers to protect against increasing big floods. Beaver dams slow water rushing down streams from heavy water. Scientists call this attenuating the peak flow. It's similar to the principle of flattening the curve during the coronavirus pandemic. By quarantining, society slowed the spread of the virus, reducing the peak numbers of people hospitalized, ideally to a level healthcare workers can handle. Because beaver dams are somewhat porous, much of the water detained will ultimately flow down the river. Some evaporates from the pond, some percolates down into the groundwater system, and rejoin the river later, further downstream. The net result is that water travels downstream over a longer period, reducing the possibility of huge wave that overflows banks and floods towns. In 2011, Elliot and his colleague kicked off this site by introducing a couple descended from Bavarian beavers. This project was authorized by Natural England, a conservation arm of the national government. There are now multiple fence trials across the country, including those in North Yorkshire, Cornwall, Essex, Somerset, Gloucestershire, Cumbria, Norfolk, West Sussex, and Dorset. Here on the West Devon site, beavers now number 5, and they have constructed 13 dams, creating 13 ponds across their territory between 2011 and 2016. In slowing the water and spreading it laterally from the original stream, they have expanded the wetland area from about 1,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. Together, the ponds hold up to 264,000 gallons of additional water above ground. Since then, the beavers have not built additional ponds, but they continue to adjust the height and width of their dams, and the volume of water on the site continues to rise. Anecdotally, the landowner, John Morgan, who has told the researchers that the road immediately downstream of the site used to flood regularly during heavy rain, but hasn't done so since the beavers were introduced. The water stored on site also helps sustain the stream during dry spells. Summer 2016 brought drought, and stream flow coming into the complex completely dried up, yet water continued to flow out, keeping the stream below viable.
Eventually, we cross the River Otter and arrive at Otterton Mill, where a water wheel has been churning for 1,000 years. Today, the wheel still grinds flour and serves as the centerpiece for a cafe restaurant arts center. The mill sits at one end of Otterton, a tiny old English village with just a few streets here, Here we meet one of Elliot's colleagues, Jake Chant, field officer of the River Otter Beaver Trial. A sinewy guy with a wide smile and a fast patter, he's perpetually available for beaver emergencies. His out-of-the-office automated email response offers this: if you need urgent support with beaver management, please call me on ... The River Otter Beaver Trial study, published by the University of Exeter, found the beavers' expanding numbers and engineering activities have had positive benefits for wildlife, fish, ecotourism, and cleaning pollution from water. And the 13 dams at Elliot's West Devon site and the 6 dams on the River Otter upstream of the village of East Budleigh significantly reduced peak flood flows. During storms, peak flows were 30% lower on average, leaving the sites than they were without beaver dams. These effects were true even in saturated midwinter conditions. Following up research confirmed similar results across multiple beaver sites in England. Even during large storms, beaver dams still reduced flooding. In fact, at the West Devon site during Storm Frank in December 2015, dams had even more impact. Outflow was 3 times lower than inflow. In 2020, the government decided the river otters, gorilla beavers could stay, concluding, the 5-year trial has brought a wealth of benefits to the local area and ecology, including enhancing the environment at a local wildlife site, creating wetland habitat, and reducing flood risk for housing downstream. They will now be allowed to remain there permanently and continue to expand their range naturally, finding new areas to settle as they need.
Devon Wildlife Trust was elated, saying in a statement, "This was a landmark decision and one of the most important moments in England's conservation history. It was the first legally sanctioned reintroduction of an extinct native mammal to England. Meanwhile, guerrilla beavering continues. Beyond the river otter, other populations of free-living beavers were spotted on the rivers in Kent, North Somerset, and Wales. As of the time of this writing, Natural England is planning a strategy for managing wild beavers and potential further releases into the wild across England. Today, beaver reintroductions are increasing in popularity around Europe. UK restorationists were inspired by work in Bavaria, Germany. Scotland has also been reintroducing beavers, officially welcoming them back in 2016 after several centuries absence and awarding them legal protection in 2019. There, the animals are living wild in Knapsdale Forest, in Argyll, and along the River Tay. Eurasian beavers, including those in the UK, are now estimated to number 1.2 million across the continent. Beaver believers in the Western United States have also been an inspiration to the Brits, even though the Americans are primarily interested in enlisting the critters to fix the opposite problem, drought. Unlike in the United Kingdom, where beavers are so scarce that restorationists must import them from Europe, in North America, the animals managed to hold on after the humans' assault. Today, their numbers are growing, although no federal agency systematically surveys the animal. Author Goldfarb says biologists estimate there are about 15 million beavers in North America today. Unfortunately, as they return to their homelands, they often run into trouble. During their centuries of near absence, another animal moved into their preferred habitat, us, where a truce between the two species remains elusive. Biologists catch the beavers, as Elves and Bailey are doing this day, and relocate them into more remote terrain where their skills can be put to good use. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our reading for this evening. And I'd love to pass it on to Mish, where he will be repeating our guiding questions for the evening. Take it away, Mish.
Beavers reshape their landscape to fit their needs for safety, food availability, habitat, etc. Yet their work impacts positively their surroundings by recentering the local ecology around a water retention landscape. Can you think of similar example within human habitat infrastructure that could have a positive regenerative impact on the landscape?
So because we're a large group and because we are really hoping that you can all share from your own personal experience better in small groups, we're going to go into breakout rooms. But before we do, I wanted to share a little video that we made about one way that Farm Lab in some way embodies work that we see emulates beaver work. And that is the way that we've been able to turn a tow yard into a floodplain by kind of gnawing on burnt trees from the Los Angeles forest and inoculating them with mycelium, and seeing what happens when we lay a floodplain on top of it. So I'm going to screen share for a minute just to kind of whet your appetite for your own practices. Let's see, I have to share sound. Can everybody see that? Video, okay? Okay.
Yep.
See.
Hugel culture is a practice of creating a mound, the word Hugel in German, and culture, which we all know. So Hugel culture is mound culture. So we have built from the ground up, layering logs, green waste, manure, and other nitrogen-rich and carbon-rich materials. And as those mature and ripen in place, we have a fertile growing space. Because it's built on the banks of the LA River, the historic banks of the river, it's submerged. It's covered over with floodplain, which is one of our experiments. So when we think about Hugel culture, my first introduction to it was through fallen trees and noticing that things grow not where the tree fell from, but where it fell to. So the tree is giving something back.
Okay. I realized the sound was good, but the video was choppy, so we'll share it in the chat bar. But it gives you an example of ways that post-human infrastructure that we're enacting works, and hopefully whets your appetite to share with each other a little bit about something that you might be doing or seeing that emulates the beaver in terms of their water and defense alignments. So I've created a series of breakout rooms that'll be live for just 10 minutes. And then we'll come back together and discuss as a group what we discovered. So off we go.
Am I in a breakout room? Or no? I think I missed my boat. I can't hear you.
You are in a breakout room. It says you're in room 3.
Okay, good.
But you have to join it.
Okay, I think I missed my join. Are we in it? Is this?
No, I'm gonna join one. I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I was in one of the rooms and I ran out of battery, so I just connected, but I'm
Yeah,
just waiting here.
I just logged in, so I don't even know what you guys been talking about all day.
We've been talking about, we've done a reading on beavers and now it was the breakout room time, but yeah,
Yeah, I figured that. It's like, oh, maybe it's gonna be awkward if I just get thrown into like, one of the room, but I'm glad I ended up with you, which also are kind of like, no,
Oh, I don't have my video, sorry. Hello.
hi, I'm
Yeah,
Stefano.
I'm Alexandra, Alex. Yeah, I guess it should be 10 minutes soon, so.
Where are you from, Alex?
I'm originally from Bucharest, Romania,
Oh, nice.
but I live in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, what about you?
I'm Italian, but I live in LA.
Nice. Oh,
Uh,
I'm being invited to a breakout room, so
all right, see you over there.
I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah, see you. I'm invited too.
Okay. we're the only ones here.
That's pretty good.
I guess this is the first time I leave a room before you get, interrupted right in the middle of a sentence and then you're back again. Oh.
Whoosh. Well, that was wonderful. We learned so much in our room about really anecdotal, specific place-based stories. Would anybody like to share from their own experience, either from their rooms or in general from things that being in discussion about beaver and beaver-like work brings up for you in relationship to post-human infrastructure?
I have something that was really exciting for me when we first started this text today, because I wasn't really aware of what we were reading. I just signed up. And it just so happens the last 2 weeks I've been having my students here at our ranch. We created something called the Castor Club, and we're building check dams all throughout the watershed on our land. So we've been studying all about beavers and building check dams and mimicking what they're doing and chopping. Even some of the kids were trying to eat wood, all these things around beavers. So it's really so beautiful that I just came on for the first time during this session, and we're talking about beavers and how miraculous they are. I've learned a lot about them. I'm happy to be here learning more.
Thank you, Walker. So nice to see the light dwindling behind you. Such a treat to watch the afternoon turn to night too.
Yeah, I just switched the lights on. So the crickets are starting to come out a bit, so that's nice. And the dogs are chasing coyotes. It's coyote chasing hour.
Oh, okay.
I can share. I found that in the house that I'm renting with some other people, there's a lot of space in the back for gardening. And when we initially moved in, there was a huge rain event, and the garage began to flood. And I found that the low point that this lot had been built on, the water all pooled and congregated at the entrance of the garage, and ended up flooding that space completely. And it damaged a lot of furniture. And I called the landlord, and they didn't seem to be moved to do anything about it. So I ended up digging a dirt wall in part of the yard here behind these vines, and then creating sort of channels from the high points around the base of the trees. There are a few fruit trees here, and have them flowing down into the garden that I put here. So it sort of traps it in this little pool. And a lot of the soil here is very heavily clay based, and there's a sandy layer. And so it's fairly absorbent, but it takes some time for water to sink in. So I found that the irrigation system that had been put into was this like spray and pray thing, and would just result in a lot of wasted water. So now it's more directed and will sit sort of around the base of the individual plants, and then sit there for long enough for it to sink down. And then the rain will stay in the garden area as opposed to flowing over here into our garage. So
Wow.
that's heavily inspired by the beavers.
That's an awesome association. If you have any photos or anything, it would be great if you could share it on our Discord. We have a whole channel that says beavers. So we're collecting these kinds of stories. That's a great anecdote. Thanks for sharing.
One technique that is
a very human way of doing what the beavers are doing is in a very post-human infrastructure, like the shock of the urban footprint is green roofs, because they tend to absorb the water that falls on this otherwise impervious surface. And usually succulents are used as the plantings on the green roof, and they just cool down the roof a little bit so there's a tiny little sort of air conditioning going on just from the evapotranspiration of the succulents and the soil on the green roofs. And while that doesn't channel water into the ground, it certainly mitigates the harshness of the sort of flat roofs everywhere, and cools down, creates a microclimate on the roof. So that's a rooftop beaver, human beaver activity.
I love that, Ansu. That's wonderful. And it's interesting to think about the transpiration of water as being a form of damming, right? Because you're giving back to the sky through having a green roof that can transpire water and even oxygen. You're giving back to the sky, rain, aquifer cycle.
Well, I don't think of water as just a liquid that flows. Water is also water vapor, just in another form.
Yeah, I love it. That's a beautiful connection.
We were also discussing in the group, but with so many known techniques, we mentioned the south bottom of the river, the bioswale, detention basins, oogles, that LA is still very reticent, doesn't really embrace all of that. And this sort of silence about where the water comes from, because it also hides a story of suffering, of appropriation. And if we don't talk too much about the water in LA, that's because it has a very dark past. I mean, when I moved here, I never heard of, Owens Valley. It was just something on a map. And I had no idea. If you had asked me where the water from came from, I would not be able to answer. And still to this day, it's hard to find new building and development with those devices in place. Was a bioswale and detention basin and sidewalk that allow water to percolate and feed the plants. LA still has a problem with accepting water from the sky, because in theory we have so little, and if we keep saying we have so little water and so little rains, then we're not going to go forward. And so that's probably the next evolution for LA. Recognize that yes, there is water from the rain, and we need to do something with it. We need to hold it back. So that's what we talked about.
So we talked about several things that maybe the rest of my group can add into this. But one thing that I remembered was a pond, a swimming pond that I got to swim in this summer, and it's a beautiful large swimming pond. And then through building that pond, they also began an archaeology project of anthropology of excavating hundreds of years of fossils, human remnants, cans, everything from early plastic to metal to fossils, and the swimming pond is absolutely incredible. And then I'll let maybe the rest of my group fill in a little bit more about what we talked about. But Michelle, you remind me of places like where there's little water, like in the on islands where there's little water, and they still can produce wine by collecting the dew. It's enough water to grow the plants, to grow the vines, to make wine. So even in places of little water, that sequestering the little water that they have is life sustaining.
In our group, we mentioned, again, the soft bottom of Los Angeles River, as Michelle had mentioned, that when a storm comes, it actually develops these mounds of biomass that then grow willow and sycamores and so on. And again, a storm comes through and it takes it down. But for some reason, a lot of those islands continue to exist in the soft bottom, which always remind me of beaver dams. And also I think about our hugels at Metabolic Studio. There's one particular hugel that we call the Voltage hugel and the Baker hugel. And those two hugels were one of our first hugels. And Lauren and I thought about positioning it in an area where we were losing a lot of the rain from the field that would just go into the street. And so we positioned it so that it can capture most of the runoff. And it is one of our most successful water retention landscape hugels that exist at Metabolic Studio. And for those of you that don't know what a hugel is, it's a construct of biomass. So I'm talking about wood pieces and leaves and compost and any kind of biomass that you find at home. You kind of build into a mound, and then you try to make sure you water it in between so that when the seeds or the plants that you plant will be successful without any additional water. So the hugels capture the water during the Los Angeles rains, and they will regenerate itself into a really beautiful little mini ecosystem where it attracts pollinators. We've begun to collect seed from it, and we recast the seed. And yeah, I recommend everybody that lives in Los Angeles, if you wanted to build a little hugel, look into it because they're very successful.
In our group, I wanted to kind of connect the dots between some of our readings from last year's learning and mending session, where we studied the proto-agriculture of the Paiute in the Owens Valley. So what we know is that the oldest archaeological kind of waterways that are evidenced on the earth are in the Owens Valley, where people redirected the flow of streams coming from the snowmelt into alternating fields. One year the water would go one place, and another it would go another place, as a way to flood alternating fields with the average amount of water that would be received, and in doing so allow periods of fallowness and alternating fields. And it made me think about, this idea that we started to talk about last week about intelligence, and how, the evolution of intelligence is often separated from the ingenuity of being able to use our brains and our opposing thumbs to think about skill sets that allow us more time to develop more strategies about all kinds of things that become the history of place. But I think that for me, the beaver is almost the kind of embodiment of site-based sourcing of the materials of invention. And in the case of the beaver, it's for protection from primary predators, as well as a way to make community and home and source food, with the fact that beavers keep growing forever these big long teeths and have the skills to do that kind of thing with. And so I'm hoping that this will segue into our reading next week, where we're asking all of us to consider what the materials as we use in our lives are. Where do they come from? How does that give back to the geological sense of place that we're living in? What is the reciprocity that you all are using in the materials you source and the skills that you're working with, and how that creates a geological return for the web of life? And so next week, Alex Tanasi will be our host, our Farm Lab host. And well, Millie, would you like to finish my sentences here? Or shall I?
Go for it. You're on a flow, Lauren. Go for it.
He is sourced a wonderful reading for us that is based in the tradition of digging clay out of the ground that we fire to make vessels to hold seed or water in. And Alex, do you want to talk a little bit about the reading?
Yeah, it just shows how they don't have a written language that they use to carry on these traditions, and how they know things just by memory and storytelling of harvesting clay.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what we're doing at the studio as well. So it's a great read. It has a lot of colorful story in it as well of their character. It's more of like a memoir, and it's just a lovely book. And I believe at the time when it was written, there wasn't a story like that being told. So it's really important to hear this reading from their voices, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. And, the other thing I wanted to say is that this Farm Lab series is coming out of the team of us that are working on 2 1-acre properties on either side of the LA River that are post-industrial brownfields. And what we're trying to do is based in our own practice. Each of us has tried to find a connected reading that extends something about our practice into like a kind of primary otherness, if that makes any sense. So we would really appreciate any feedback at all about how these stories relate or don't relate to catalyzing novel thoughts and ideas in your mind, because creating a conversation about post-human infrastructure is kind of invention like a Hugel mound. We're trying to build based on the scraps of our own experience, something that maybe makes sense to a broader picture. That's why we say at the beginning, we're not experts, but we're trying to open the conversation based in our own practices and experiences with all of you. And before we close for the night, I did want to also talk about my own kind of embodied experience with things like the Occupy movement in New York and other protest encampments like at Standing Rock. And what ultimately ended those things was the water supply being shut off. So the idea of radical organizations being able to consider how to support themselves for longer durational periods by independent water supplies is also something to consider, right? That we ultimately need to figure out where our water comes from as a way to create longevity of alternative communities. Anybody want to throw anything into that pot before we pass it off to Millie and Emily?
I could bring something. It's so big though, but just to touch on it, just living out in a rural place in Mexico, you have a really good sense of, everyone has a good sense of where their water comes from. and everyone has a good sense of where their neighbor's water comes from. And at this point, we're obviously having a lot of water shortages. So for me, even my students who live in this area, they know where their water comes from. During our camp a few days ago, we ran out of drinking water. And then one of us had to drive to town to get some bottles of drinking water. But that was a really big topic for us. But it seems to be living in an everyday, very practical way here. So it's interesting to be in a landscape where you're completely aware of that, and that where the water you are receiving for your agriculture or for your home or for your animals or yourself or whatever, it's counted for and it's known, and people are at this point in time talking about, there's little wars going on between people selling water and who has the best water, is the cleanest water, who stole water from someone else. So all of that is very much alive in the place where I live now. It's interesting to also bring that to my students in LA and talk about where their water is coming from. So, yeah.
About 3 weeks ago, I came home and I thought that we had left the hose on watering something. I was like, oh my God. And there was a burst pipe under the house. It wasn't actually, there was a small hole in the pipe, but the crawl space was so small that nobody could get under there. Literally, I turned the water off at the street because that's where ours is. And it took almost 2.5 weeks to get a plumber that could actually get under the house and just fix that pipe instead of rerouting the entire piping system, which is what somebody wanted to do. And why I'm sharing that is that during that time, we had no running water in our house. And so my niece and my mom, 83-year-old mom who live here, so I had about 30 bottles of water stored for earthquake, disaster preparation, but those ran out after a little while because they're not big. So neighbors were so generous in helping us refill our water bottles over and over. And that was a lovely experience. But what was great is I got to talk with Marisa, my niece, about imagine being out of water for 3 weeks at a time on a regular basis, like they are in Allensworth, California, in the Central Valley, or in Jackson, where they have no water, or their water is poisonous in Texas, and that's a regular thing. So just having our small little water crisis was really enlightening for me and my neighbors, because my neighbors really were amazing at sharing and talking about water as life, like so many of us do in the circles. But anyway, it was a pretty interesting experience, and that it just was really more waking up, So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I never realized, I guess I never really thought about water until I lived up on the mountain for like 2.5 years. And it was right here in the San Gabriel Valley, but all the water they got was from a spring. And to learn about the intricacies of like how this water was distributed and all the fights that they would have about the water, and then having like 2 weeks where we couldn't even flush the toilet. I felt like such a princess because I'd never really thought about it. I've tried to save water when I lived in other places, or just being conscious about the water, but nowhere to the extent where I had ever experienced, like, what do you mean I don't have water to flush the toilet? And thinking that, gosh, that's the least of some people's experience, like drinking water. Like I thought, how dare I flush water down the toilet, after that, realizing that, and then just noticing how dry the landscape was yeah, it just really, it really gave me a whole different understanding of like what we do with water and how important it is and how much we do waste it. So yeah, that was just very eye-opening.
Well, thank you, everyone. We sincerely appreciate all of your thoughts, your readings, your sharing of your evening tonight. We're going to close this out by Emily sharing the Beaver of the Week. We will see you guys next week. Once again, come back. We love the conversation and we will continue. Thank you, Emily, for sharing. And good evening, everybody.
Okay. Oops, hold on, I forgot to check one thing. Share sound. Share. Okay.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, thank you.
Hey, Emily. Oh, you're gone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Did you? Hi. First, I just wanted to show this puppy to you.
Oh, hi, Juno.
That's a critter little girl. She's such a handful. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm holding her because she's such a coyote chaser. And this night, she's out there. She's been attacked too many times and she still doesn't care. I was going to ask if you guys, along doing all this research, if you had seen a video that a woman biologist did, and I'm sorry, I don't know her name. Her work was in Arizona at a place called the Dixie Creek. And she'd been doing this restoration project for over 30 years. And they were doing, making check dams as well. But what was interesting about the story was that the beavers actually naturally just appeared in this creek. And my first thought was like, wait, beavers in Arizona, is that a thing? I don't think of them as being so widespread across the United States. But yeah, that was really surprising. But it's a great little film and it's a really interesting project.
I'll look it up. That sounds
Thanks, Walker.
Yeah, it's called Dixie Creek.
Awesome.
Wait, I'm gonna write that in the chat bar.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Dixie Creek.
Thanks so much. This was really fun.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you guys too. I love all this sort of practical knowledge sharing. It seems very hands-on to me and exciting. And
yeah, it's been a really good sort of 3 or 4 month immersion for Farm Lab to kind of like really dig into what we're doing, and then each individual kind of sourcing something that connects, that is outside of your own practice, just because you never realize how much you have to share until you try and share it in a way that's not your own personal story. So just that kind of idea of like, everybody's a teacher, everybody has something to share, and breaking it out of this like idea of experts.
Right. Yeah, it feels really natural and it's easy to engage for me.
Oh, good.
Well,
Thanks for that feedback.
We also appreciate your perspective, Walker, because we know that you're tending the land and you're dealing with living systems out there. So your perspective is also really important for us too.
Yeah, I feel so privileged to be able to be doing this work here, and also now to be working with children, which is what I was doing in LA, but I've joined up with a school here. So that feels super, super exciting to me. And the kids are so interested and so completely hands-on and really, really super into it, having a good time. So
wonderful.
Curious to see what our little experiments, how they will unfold. But yeah, you guys should come down. I asked Zola, what I'm doing all this work to this place and I'm not going to be around forever. I mean, none of us are, but it would be nice to know somebody that would be interested in carrying on this work, and how would you consider yourself here? And she said, oh, Mom, we have to do residencies there. You have to, that's the thing that we need to do. So I'm going to let her spearhead that a little bit. So, but I always like to have visitors and share what we're working on down here. And it's only 3.5 hours away from where you guys are.
I definitely would love to come visit Walker. I've been wanting to get down there for so long. So
I know it's hard to just jump out of your lives and say
it's easy. It's easy for me. So
your life.
Yeah. So I definitely will make a point to get down there as soon as I can and coordinate with you, because I've been following with such interest what you're doing, and also, you know, we're part of the same ecozone, and I don't really like personally buy into country borders or even city borders, and
I know.
but it's the same place for the most part,
Right.
at least from the photos and the stories that you're sharing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, some of my friends here are who are very much into restoring landscapes and trying to promote native plants, and because there's a lot of development going on here now, and we see people destroy, coming in with bulldozers, just like what they call cleaning the land. Those people, they oh, who's that, Junie?
Come here, say hi to Juno.
Hi, Juno. Who's that?
Lulu, say hi.
It's dog.
Tomsky Bear.
Oh, he doesn't like to get picked up.
His ears are perked up.
Oh yeah, Lula's in dialogue with Chomsky Major.
So these people that are very big native plant enthusiasts, they ask me like, oh, look at this erogonium. It's does that grow in just like I'm like, well, it's just an arbitrary line across the landscape. The plants, yeah, they're there too. They don't pay attention to the border wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so cute. What's that thing? It's almost otter-like.
Yeah. Lulu's a little otter. Yeah.
All right. I've got to run, you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye.